Pay attention to this screen recording captured on January 14, 2026 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. A woman scrolls through a dating app at 11:47 p.m., 2 years single, and finally ready to start looking again. Left swipe, left swipe, left swipe, and then her thumb freezes mid-motion because the face staring back at her is her own. Same eyes, same smile, same small scar above the left eyebrow from a childhood bike accident, but the profile name reads, Amanda, 32, Chicago. And the woman holding the phone is named Rachel, and Rachel's twin sister Megan went missing 7 years ago. Megan received a legal declaration of death in 2022 after 3 years produced no trace of her anywhere. Rachel buried an empty casket, delivered a eulogy, started therapy, and tattooed her sister's birthdate on her wrist as a permanent memorial. Now, her dead sister's face fills a dating app screen, wearing clothes Rachel has never seen before, photographed in locations that don't exist in any family album, using images that were never posted online. This is the story of how a dating app profile led to the discovery of a basement, a man operating under 3 identities, and the answer to a missing persons case that police had closed 4 years earlier. August 2019 takes us back to where this nightmare began. Megan Hollister lived alone at 26 years old in a 1-bedroom apartment in Kenosha, Wisconsin, working as a dental hygienist at a family practice while maintaining a small circle of close friends and talking to her twin sister Rachel every single day without exception. Identical twins from birth, they shared the same face, same voice, and same laugh. And growing up, their parents dressed Megan in blue and Rachel in green so teachers could tell them apart. Adult life placed them 30 minutes from each other with weekend visits locked into their schedules like appointments they'd never cancel. August 17, 2019 fell on a Saturday, and the twins had brunch plans at their usual cafe in Racine, positioned halfway between their apartments. Rachel arrived at 11 a.m. and waited as the minutes stretched to 11:15, then 11:30, with 3 unanswered texts and calls rolling straight to voicemail. Noon brought Rachel to Megan's apartment where her car sat in the parking lot. Knocking produced no answer, so Rachel used the spare key her sister had given her and stepped inside to find the apartment empty, Megan's purse sitting on the kitchen counter, her phone resting on the coffee table, and her keys dropped in the bowl by the door. Everything Megan needed to leave voluntarily remained behind, while Megan herself had vanished. Rachel dialed police at 12:34 p.m. The investigation moved quickly because every detail of that scene screamed abduction. Women don't abandon their purse, their phone, and their keys unless someone forces them to leave without those items, and Megan had left all 3 behind. Detectives canvassed the apartment building and discovered that security cameras covered the parking lot but missed individual unit doors and hallways entirely. Footage from August 16th captured Megan arriving home from work at 5:47 p.m., her car pulling in, her body walking toward the building entrance, and then nothing. No footage of her leaving, no footage of anyone suspicious entering or exiting. Nothing but a blind spot that someone clearly knew existed. Neighbors reported hearing no screams and no sounds of struggle, though one resident mentioned spotting an unfamiliar white van in the visitor lot around 8 p.m. on August 16th without catching a plate number or driver description. Megan's phone records revealed nothing alarming, just regular calls to Rachel, their parents, and a few friends. Her final text message went out at 6:12 p.m. on August 16th, sent to Rachel saying, "Just got home, call you after dinner." That call never came. Detectives tore apart Megan's life searching for anyone with motive to harm her. No boyfriend existed at the time since she'd broken up with someone named Derek 8 months earlier. And Derek's alibi held firm with time-stamped warehouse clock-in records, placing him 200 miles away during a night shift. No angry patients emerged from her workplace, no stalker behavior surfaced in any reports, no threatening messages appeared anywhere in her communications, and no enemies materialized from any direction. Megan kept her social media private and limited to close friends only, never posting locations or sharing details with strangers. Careful by nature, she did everything right, and she still disappeared without a trace. 6 months ground the case to a halt, with no body, no ransom demand, no sightings, and no leads worth pursuing. Rachel refused to accept this and posted flyers everywhere, created a Facebook page dedicated to finding Megan, appeared on local news 3 times, and hired a private investigator in 2020 who discovered nothing beyond what police already knew. 2022 brought a petition from Rachel's parents asking the court to declare Megan legally dead because they needed closure, needed to settle her affairs, and needed permission to grieve properly. Rachel fought the petition and lost, and on March 3, 2022, Megan Hollister officially ceased to exist in the eyes of the law. The family held a memorial service around an empty casket where Rachel read a poem Megan had written in high school, while their mother collapsed at the graveside. 1 week later, Rachel walked into a tattoo parlor and permanently inked April 14, 1993 on her inner wrist, her sister's birth date preserved forever on her skin. Therapy followed, along with attempts to move forward, and brief dating in 2023 that couldn't stick because commitment felt impossible. Rachel told herself she'd try again when she felt ready, and by January 2026, that readiness finally arrived. She downloaded a dating app and started swiping. January 14, 2026. At 11:47 p.m., found Rachel lying in bed cycling through profiles after a week on the app without a single match. Pickiness and caution drove her left swipes until a profile appeared that stopped her breathing. The woman in those photos wore her face. Not a similar face, but her exact face. Identical twin. Identical down to every detail Rachel knew from looking in mirrors her entire life and studying photographs for 7 years since her sister vanished. The profile claimed the name Amanda, age 32, Chicago residence, marketing career, and displayed 3 photos. Photo 1 showed a casual selfie with hair down and a smile Rachel recognized better than her own. Photo 2 captured a restaurant booth scene with wineglass in hand and laughter frozen mid-expression. Photo 3 featured a beach at sunset, sundress flowing, feet bare in the sand. Ice flooded Rachel's veins because those clothes belonged to no wardrobe she recognized. That restaurant matched no location in her memory, and that beach could exist anywhere. Worse still, the photo quality screamed recent capture with modern lighting and high resolution that couldn't have come from before 2019. Rachel's trembling hands screenshotted every photo and the full profile before texting her therapist at midnight with the words, "I need to talk, emergency." And then she did something she'd later describe as either brilliant or insane. She swiped right. The match notification appeared instantly because Amanda had already swiped right on Rachel's profile. Seconds later, a message arrived asking, "Hey, love your profile. You seem really interesting. What are you looking for on here?" Rachel stared at those words, knowing that whoever controlled this account was using her dead sister's face to attract matches, which meant either Megan lived and operated under a fake name or someone possessed photos of Megan that existed nowhere online. Playing along seemed like the only option, so Rachel responded with, "Just seeing what's out there. You have a great smile." Amanda replied with thanks and a comment about hearing that compliment often, then asked what Rachel did for work. Lies came easily as Rachel invented a finance career, a Chicago address, and a recent move from Minneapolis, constructing a fake life to match Amanda's fake profile. 2 hours of messaging followed with Amanda flirting and engaging and asking questions about Rachel's invented life while revealing almost nothing about herself. Questions about Amanda's workplace met deflection, and questions about her time in Chicago triggered subject changes. At 2 a.m., Rachel asked if Amanda wanted to grab coffee sometime, and Amanda's response claimed she'd love that, but work travel kept her busy until the 22nd. Rachel agreed to wait, the conversation ended, and sleep never came. Morning arrived at 8 a.m. with Rachel already dialing the Kenosha Police Department. Detective Laura Chen recognized the name immediately because she'd worked Megan's missing persons case back in 2019 and delivered the news to Rachel that no leads remained before closing the file herself. When Rachel appeared at the station on January 15, 2026, carrying screenshots of a dating profile displaying her dead sister's face, Detective Chen assumed catfishing, figuring someone had scraped old photos of Megan for scam purposes. Closer examination of those photos changed everything. The clothes matched nothing from Megan's known wardrobe, the locations matched nothing from any documented moment in her life, and the image quality exceeded anything 2019 technology could have produced. One detail made Detective Chen's stomach lurch. The beach photo showed a small crescent moon tattoo on the woman's ankle. And Rachel confirmed immediately that Megan never had tattoos, because her fear of needles made the idea unthinkable. That tattoo meant either someone had digitally added it to old photos, or these images came from after 2019, and Megan had acquired that tattoo during whatever happened in the years since her disappearance. Detective Chen picked up her phone and called the FBI. January 16th brought the FBI's cybercrimes unit into the investigation. Tracing the dating profile revealed an account created on December 28, 2025, under the email registration Amanda Peters, with a VPN masking the IP address. Photo uploads originated from a device geotagged to an address in Rockford, Illinois, roughly 80 miles from Chicago. That address belonged to Thomas Whitfield, a 41-year-old IT specialist at a regional insurance company with zero criminal record, zero arrests, zero warrants, and zero red flags. His residence dated back to 2017, his status listed as single, and no vehicles registered to him matched the white van Megan's neighbor had described in 2019. Property records told a different story. Thomas Whitfield owned a second piece of real estate, a rural farmhouse outside Beloit, Wisconsin, that he'd purchased with cash in 2015, carrying no mortgage and listing no occupants. Utility records showed consistent electrical and water usage despite official paperwork claiming the property sat empty. Someone occupied that farmhouse, and Thomas Whitfield covered the utility bills every month. January 18, 2026, brought search warrants for both properties, starting with Whitfield's primary residence in Rockford. Agents arrived at 9:14 a.m. to find Whitfield absent and entered a house that looked ordinary in every way, clean and minimally decorated like any single man's home. A spare bedroom contained computer equipment, including high-end setups with multiple monitors and external hard drives. Forensic examination of those devices took less than an hour to uncover the photos. Thousands of them filled the storage, all showing a woman who looked exactly like Megan Hollister across what appeared to be years of documentation. Different outfits, different hairstyles, different angles within what seemed like the same interior space, with some images capturing smiles, others showing averted gazes, and a few documenting her sleeping. And then the forensics team found videos. Short clips showed the woman cooking in a small kitchen, reading on a couch, watching television, and exercising in what appeared to be a basement. File metadata dated back to August 2019, with the most recent video recorded on January 11, 2026, just 3 days before Rachel spotted the dating profile. Megan Hollister hadn't died. 7 years had passed with her alive somewhere, and these files suggested that somewhere involved captivity. Agents converged on the Beloit farmhouse at 11:30 a.m. and found Thomas Whitfield's car parked in the driveway. Surrounding the property and announcing their presence produced 3 minutes of silence before the front door opened and Whitfield emerged with his hands raised. Arrest occurred without incident, and Whitfield offered no words. The farmhouse interior presented sparse living quarters on the main floor with a living room, kitchen, bathroom, and bedroom containing nothing unusual. A kitchen door led downward to a basement. 3 deadbolt locks secured that door from the outside. Agents breached at 11:47 a.m., and what waited at the bottom of those stairs would become one of the most disturbing captivity cases Wisconsin had ever documented. Someone had converted that basement into a living space. A bed occupied one corner, a couch faced a television, a small kitchen area held a mini fridge and microwave, a bookshelf sagged under the weight of novels, a stationary bike provided exercise options, and a bathroom offered shower facilities. Sitting on that couch and staring at the agents with an expression cycling between terror, confusion, and something resembling hope was a woman who hadn't seen daylight in nearly 7 years. Megan Hollister, now 33 years old, sat thin but not starving, clean, her hair grown longer than she'd ever worn it. On her ankle, a small crescent moon tattoo matched the image from the dating profile photos. Words didn't come when agents found her, only tears. Paramedics transported Megan to a Madison hospital for physical and psychological evaluation, finding malnutrition that fell short of critical and no major injuries. Thomas Whitfield had kept her alive and relatively healthy for 7 years. The question pressing on every investigator's mind was why. Thomas Whitfield's interrogation started at 4 p.m. on January 18th with a decision that surprised everyone involved. He waived his right to an attorney, and most suspects facing charges this severe lawyer up immediately. But Whitfield seemed almost eager to explain himself. 6 hours produced a fragmented confession. February 2019 brought his first sighting of Megan at a coffee shop in Kenosha, where she sat reading a book with an expression of peace that struck him and triggered an obsession. Months of surveillance followed as he learned her routines, her address, her workplace, and her schedule, while studying security camera coverage at her apartment complex until he identified every blind spot. August 16, 2019, at 7:45 p.m., placed his van in the visitor parking lot. 8:30 p.m. brought a knock on Megan's door with a claim of being maintenance responding to a water leak report. Megan let him inside. Pretending to inspect pipes under her kitchen sink, gave him access to her coffee, which he drugged while her back turned. Loss of consciousness followed, and he carried her out through the back entrance that no camera covered, loading her into his van. The farmhouse had been prepared for months with a sound-proofed basement, reinforced doors, and everything necessary for long-term survival. Killing her was never part of his plan. Keeping her was. Investigators pressed him about the dating profile and why he'd post photos of a woman he'd held captive for 7 years. Whitfield's answer exposed the depth of his delusion. Loneliness had overwhelmed him because Megan wasn't enough anymore, and he wanted someone new, but no one he encountered matched her perfection. Using her photos to attract someone who'd appreciate him the way he wished Megan would seemed logical to his fractured mind, and the contradiction escaped him entirely. Every photo came from his own camera over the years. The selfies featured genuine smiles he'd coerced from her. The restaurant booth existed in the basement, decorated with backdrops to simulate a different location. The beach photo involved a green screen and purchased backdrop staged to look authentic. Forced poses, forced smiles, and clothes he'd selected himself filled those images. The tattoo came from a tattoo gun he'd brought into the basement in 2023, held her down, and inked onto her ankle while she screamed, calling it a gift and expecting gratitude. Uploading those images to a dating app never prompted consideration that someone might recognize the face he'd stolen 7 years earlier. Rachel never crossed his mind as a possibility. January the 19th, 2026, brought permission for Rachel to see her sister after 7 years of separation. A psychiatric facility in Madison hosted the reunion with hospital staff warning Rachel that Megan might not respond predictably because 7 years of captivity creates psychological damage that doesn't heal quickly. Rachel entered the room at 2:15 p.m. Megan sat on a bed near the window and turned when the door opened. Identical faces looked at each other across 7 years of separation. Megan spoke 5 words. "I knew you'd find me." Belief that Rachel would come had never left her, and survival through dark moments hinged on that certainty. 347 days she'd counted, knowing the exact number, holding on through times when death seemed preferable, because thoughts of Rachel pulled her back every time. 20 minutes passed with Rachel holding her sister without releasing her grip. Investigation into Thomas Whitfield continued for months after his arrest. Digital forensics revealed years of dating app activity under various photos and identities, conversations with dozens of women that never escalated to physical meetings. Megan remained his only confirmed victim. Deeper examination of his computers uncovered research. Detailed documentation on other women filled his files, including names, addresses, routines, and photographs covering 12 women total between 2012 and 2018, all located in Wisconsin and Illinois. Evidence pointed toward years of planning abductions before Megan became his target. None of those 12 women had gone missing, because Whitfield apparently never found the right opportunity or summoned the nerve. Megan represented his first successful abduction. Investigators contacted all 12 women, and most had no idea they'd ever been stalked. Some recalled seeing a man matching Whitfield's description in their neighborhoods or workplaces without giving it much thought. Thomas Whitfield had operated as a predator in waiting for years, and Megan became the one he finally caught. May 12, 2026 opened the trial. Charges included kidnapping, unlawful imprisonment, aggravated battery, and sexual assault. Megan delivered testimony via closed-circuit video from a separate room to avoid facing her captor directly. 4 hours of testimony covered the first night in that basement, with its confusion and terror and realization that rescue wasn't coming. Daily visits from Whitfield followed, sometimes twice daily, bringing food and conversation delivered like friendship that turned to anger when responses disappointed him. Rules governed her existence underground: no screaming, no escape attempts, no food refusal. Breaking rules triggered electricity shutoffs lasting days, leaving her in darkness without heat or refrigeration. The photos required forced posing and selected clothing and demanded smiles for his camera. Claims that no one would ever see those images proved false. The tattoo came from a 2023 basement session where he pinned her down and inked her ankle through her screams, calling the permanent mark a gift she should appreciate. Jury members watched security footage recovered from farmhouse cameras that Whitfield had installed throughout the basement to monitor Megan remotely. 7 years of captivity compressed into evidence clips showed a woman's entire life stolen and documented by her captor. June 4, 2026, delivered the verdict after 3 hours of jury deliberation: guilty on all counts. Thomas Whitfield displayed no emotion as the verdict reached his ears, staring straight ahead at something distant. June 28, 2026, brought sentencing, with the judge describing Whitfield's crimes as among the most disturbing this court has ever seen, while noting the methodical planning, years of preparation, and complete absence of remorse. 4 consecutive life terms without parole possibility became Thomas Whitfield's future. Prison will hold him until death. What stays with me about this case is how invisible Thomas Whitfield managed to be. 0 criminal record, 0 visible warning signs, steady employment, bills paid on time, lawn mowed regularly. Neighbors described him as quiet but friendly, offering no hint that a predator lived among them. Over a decade of researching women, planning abductions, and waiting for opportunities produced nothing that attracted attention. And when action finally came, patience kept his victim hidden for 7 years without arousing suspicion. That dating profile exposed everything. Consider what that means. A man's twisted loneliness driving desire for another captive led to the single mistake that unraveled his entire operation: uploading photos of his victim to a public platform where her identical twin sister happened to encounter them at 11:47 p.m. on a random January night created the crack that brought everything down. Astronomical odds governed Rachel finding that profile. She had to download that specific app, fall within the right geographic range, scroll at the right moment, and recognize her own face staring back at her. Any single variable shifting differently would have left Megan underground still. Megan Hollister survives today because of a dating app and a sister whose search never ended. Intensive therapy fills her days now while she lives with Rachel in a new apartment in a city far from Wisconsin. Outdoor excursions remain rare, small spaces trigger panic, and nightmares visit most nights. But breath still fills her lungs. 347 days of captivity ended because belief in her twin sister's persistence never died. Rachel delivered on that faith, though not through police work, private investigators, or a justice system that declared Megan dead in 2022. A random swipe on a dating app at 11:47 p.m. on a January night when Rachel finally felt ready to move forward brought her sister home. Swiping right on her dead sister's face led to a basement in Wisconsin and a reunion 7 years in the making. This case raises questions that should unsettle anyone listening. How many other basements exist holding victims nobody knows about? How many predators hide behind steady jobs, clean records, and friendly waves at neighbors while harboring secrets that would horrify investigators? 12 women appeared in Thomas Whitfield's research files before Megan, 12 targets who were watched, stalked, and studied by a man whose existence never registered in their awareness. Any of them could have occupied that basement instead. Protection against someone you've never noticed. Someone who's memorized your schedule and mapped your security vulnerabilities and identified exactly when you're most exposed doesn't exist completely. That truth terrifies because no perfect defense exists. Attention to surroundings helps, varying routines helps, trusting instincts when wrongness registers helps, telling someone when fear surfaces helps, and when someone you love disappears, refusing to stop looking helps most of all. Rachel's search never stopped. 7 years passed. An empty casket received a funeral. A death certificate made separation official. A memorial tattoo marked permanent loss. Therapy attempted to process grief. Everyone around her suggested moving on. One January night, she opened a dating app and recognized her sister's face, and presence of mind pushed her to screenshot everything and contact police instead of dismissing impossibility. Trust in what her eyes showed her, trust in herself, and trust that her sister remained alive somewhere drove action that brought Megan home. January 14th, 2026, at 11:47 p.m., placed Rachel in bed swiping through profiles, ready for a new chapter. A face she knew better than any other face in existence appeared on screen. A choice presented itself. Convince yourself coincidence explains it, a look-alike, a cruel trick of genetics and lighting. Swipe left and never know. Rachel swiped right instead. That single decision, that fraction of a second, that thumb movement brought her sister back from death. Second chances come to some people. Megan Hollister received one because her twin sister never stopped believing she remained alive. 7 years of captivity, 2,347 days underground, one dating app, one swipe. Megan is home now because Rachel found her. Someone you love going missing doesn't require giving up. Something that doesn't make sense deserves investigation. Something that shouldn't exist demands attention rather than dismissal. And seeing your dead sister's face on a dating app requires a screenshot. You might just bring her home.